I'd like to welcome you as we call the Danville City Commission meeting to order this afternoon. Today is Monday, April the 10th, 2023. The time is 5:30, and this is a regular City Commission meeting. So I want to welcome you and thank you for your attendance and your participation tonight. We will be led in a moment of silence tonight by the mayor, and this moment of silence is in, commemoration, remembrance of the recent shooting that took place in our city of Louisville, Kentucky just today. And then also want you to think about the fact that we are celebrating the homegoing of Mrs. Dot Stallard, longtime employee of Kentucky School for the Deaf. But more importantly, I like to recognize her because she's one of the first interpreters in the city of Danville in Boyle County, Kentucky. Long time volunteered KST, employee, and community-wide interpreter. So please, a moment of silence in honor of those two things. Thank you. Next on our agenda, we're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by City Commissioner, Mayor Pro Tem Jenny Holland.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I don't have one.
It's customary that we give a key to the city to those who lead us in the pledge. Commissioner Holland notified me she did not have a key to the city, so we gave her a special Danville, Kentucky lapel pin. So thank you for doing that. All right. Next on our agenda is the approval of tonight's agenda. Commissioners, you've had a chance to have our agenda for the weekend. So are there any changes, additions, or corrections to tonight's agenda? If not, we will approve the agenda by acclamation tonight. So thank you for that. And that moves us right into our first opportunity to hear from our constituents, the public tonight. And at this point in our agenda, the public can come forward, can speak to us about items that are on the agenda at this time period. Only speak to us about items that are on the agenda. We ask that you come to the microphone, identify yourself, and we'll give you 3 minutes or less. The important part of that tonight is the 3 minutes or less, because we are going to try to get this meeting moved along very quickly. Kentucky School for the Deaf is celebrating their 200th anniversary, and the kickoff is this afternoon at 6 o'clock. And we've promised their attendees that we will be there by 6 o'clock, so y'all got to help us do that. So we'll see, right? Okay, anyone desiring to speak to the commission on items that are on our agenda tonight? Okay? No, not yet. No. Yeah, I know you're anxious, but not yet. Okay, we'll get to you. Okay, hearing none, let's move along then. We have next on our agenda a proclamation for Child Abuse Prevention Month, and that's going to be read by Commissioner Peak, and it's going to be accepted by Mrs. Casey Atwood. Is that right? And Ms. Atwood's going to speak to us for a little bit, right? All right, so you want to come to the mic, and then Commissioner Peak will come down to meet you.
Yes, thank you all so much for allowing us to speak and for this proclamation. My name is Casey Atwood, and I am the Program Development Coordinator for CASA of the Bluegrass. I wanted to also introduce our staff and supporters here, including Virginia Burney. She is one of our CASA volunteers. We truly could not be the program we are without our volunteers, so we really appreciate their support. The CASA of the Bluegrass mission is as follows. CASA of the Bluegrass recruits and trains court-appointed special advocates so that every child who experiences abuse or neglect or dependency can be safe, have a permanent home, and the opportunity to thrive. In 2022, there were 110 reports of child abuse just here within Boyle County. We see them every day. We actually had family court earlier today. And we know that our program, as well as all kinds of other resources in the city, are part of what is trying to fix a little bit of the trauma that these children have had to unfortunately experience. So we do want to thank anyone who has supported our mission and our program, including the City Commission. And we do look forward to future support, and in any way that we can help aid that, we would appreciate, we would take the opportunity to do that. And lastly, we also want to thank for the opportunity to plant pinwheels outside the City Hall here shortly. And we were also perhaps proposing the idea of planting them at the courthouse here in Danville, which is where we do a lot of our business, as well as perhaps on the intersection of the bypass right there by McDonald's and Perryville Road. That's a very high traffic area, and just a swarm of pinwheels would really get the message of Child Abuse Prevention Month across. And finally, we'll accept the proclamation, and we also have pins for everyone to commemorate Child Abuse Prevention Month. The blue pinwheel is the symbol for that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Peak, you want to read the proclamation, please?
Whereas children are vital to our state's future success, prosperity, and quality of life, as well as being our most vulnerable assets, and whereas all children deserve to have the safe, stable, nurturing homes and communities they need to foster their healthy growth and development, and whereas child abuse and neglect is a community responsibility affecting both the current and future quality of life of a community, and whereas communities that provide parents with the social support, knowledge of parenting, and child development and concrete resources they need to cope with stress and nurture their children, ensure all children grow to their full potential. And whereas effective child abuse prevention strategies succeed because of partnerships created among citizens, human service agencies, schools, faith communities, healthcare providers, civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. Now therefore be it resolved that Mayor J.H. Atkins and the City Commissioners of the City of Danville on this 10th day of April 2023 recognize April as Child Abuse Prevention Month and urge all citizens to increase their participation in the efforts to support families, thereby preventing child abuse and strengthening the community in which we live.
Thank you, ma'am. It's appropriate for the commission to entertain a motion to accept this proclamation.
I move that we accept the proclamation into the record.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any unreadiness or discussion? If not, all those in favor of accepting the Child Abuse Prevention Proclamation, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Thank you. Proclamation passes. We'll present that to her. Yes, ma'am. Someone gonna take a picture? Oh, a lot of cameras popped up. Okay.
want to stand in the middle? Yeah.
Oh, I was trying to say. Come on, she wants all of us.
I didn't hear her say she wanted to, she wanted you.
Behave yourself. Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Thank you, ma'am, for that presentation. Next on our agenda is a proclamation in celebration of Kentucky School for the Deaf's 200th anniversary. And I was told I had to read this tonight, so I'm going to try to do that. I won't tell you who told me I had to do it, but anyway, proclamation KSD 200th anniversary. Whereas the Kentucky School for the Deaf was established on April the 10th, 1823 in Danville, Kentucky. Whereas the Kentucky School for the Deaf was the first publicly supported school for the deaf established in these United States. Whereas the Kentucky School for the Deaf was funded by the support from the United States through the sale of federal land grants in Florida in 1826 and Alabama in 1836. And whereas the Kentucky School for the Deaf was the fourth oldest school for the deaf in the United States and the first established west of the Allegheny Mountains. Whereas the first teacher of the deaf at KSD was a Center College student, John Adamson Jacobs, who studied under the father of deaf education in the United States, Reverend Thomas Hopkins Gallaudet, and the first teacher of the deaf in the United States, Mr. Laurent Clerc, C-L-E-R-C. And whereas the Center College Board of Trustees served as the governing board of KSD from 1823 to 1870. And whereas the Kentucky School for the Deaf has been designated as the statewide education resource center on deafness. And whereas the Kentucky School for the Deaf has educated deaf and hard of hearing students from throughout the Commonwealth of Kentucky for 200 years. Now therefore, the mayor and the Board of Commissioners of the City of Danville do hereby recognize the Kentucky School for the Deaf on their 200th anniversary on this 10th day of April 2023. And we have in our presence Mrs. Barbie Harris, but we also have in our presence, I won't get this wrong, but it's Mrs. Barbie, a fifth-generation descendant from the first organizer, the founder, the state senator who got the motion started in our state government to establish Kentucky School for the Deaf. So would you two ladies stand up, come forward, please? And Mrs. Barbie and her husband has traveled all the way from the state of Washington, north of Seattle, to be in Danville, Kentucky this week to help KSD celebrate their 200th anniversary. That's awesome, right? And we're going to be there by 6 o'clock. All right. Okay.
All right, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you, ma'am. Congratulations. I've said to you earlier, thanks, congratulations, and welcome to Danville. And like I tell all visitors, you should have stood a little money right now. Yeah, they traveled across the country to get here. Great. And we'll see you later on this evening, right? Won't be 6 o'clock, but we'll be there. Chair needs to entertain a motion to accept that proclamation.
I'll move to approve the proclamation.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Thank you. Proclamation in tonight. Next on the agenda is a proclamation of National Telecommunications Week, and that's going to be read and presented by Commissioner Cottle, and it's going to be received by Rebecca Hafley.
Where's Rebecca? Oh, there you
See
are.
you back there. Come on
Oh,
up.
there she
Because I know she wants to say a thing or two also.
Do you want to speak before the proclamation or after?
I'll speak after.
Okay. National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, emergency medical services. And whereas an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our police officers and firefighters is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the Danville County 911 Center, and whereas public safety telecommunicators, so that's a tough one, of the Danville County 911 Center contribute daily to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fire, and treatment of patients in the performance of their jobs. And whereas Danville telecommunicators exhibit
compassion, understanding, and professionalism during their performance of their job. Therefore, be it resolved that Mayor J. Jackins and the Board of Commissioners through the City of Danville on this 10th day of April 2023 declares the week of April 9th through 15th as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in Danville, Bull County in honor of the women and men whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe.
Thank you, sir.
To get a little tongue-tied, say that fast 3 times.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to thank the mayor and board of commissioners and along with all the city staff to pretty much support us day after day. Also, one bad part of my job is we do keep up with disasters and mass incidents and stuff, and we'll be reaching out to Louisville with a card, at least from us. So we try to do that with any big mass casualty or incident, whether it's in-state or out-of-state.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I was going to call Judge Bottom to come and help present this, but
She stepped out.
she's what? She's planting pinwheels? Well, because 911 centers are a joint effort, so I was going to include her in the presentation. So.
I know she stepped out, but I'm not sure where she went.
All right.
Do you want me to stick my head out and see if I can find her, or? Oh, she's doing the pinwheels, isn't she?
Well, when she shows up at our meetings, we need to try to find a way to put her to work.
Absolutely.
She would do the same to us if we showed up at hers, so, you know. Okay.
I'm going to do an interpretive dance
Oh,
about the whole meeting. It'll be pretty special.
did we have a motion and approve that proclamation?
I'll make that motion.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the Telecommunications Week proclamation, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, thank you, the motion carries. And while we're waiting, is she coming?
Yep.
She'll say, that Atkins, he got me again, right? See, I started my day in shoes.
I've been planting flowers, Mayor. What can I say? I've been planting flowers.
That's all right. You plant flowers in 49. Wait, where's the best side? Where's the best side? No, you over there. All right, there you go. All right. County judge is trying her best to work. Keep pushing the work, right?
That's right.
1, 2, 3, 5.
Yeah.
You let me out at 9 o'clock.
That's right. That's right.
I don't work for the city till after 11 o'clock. I do that for work.
Hey, you got early.
For the record, Mayor, we voted on a proclamation. Want to get Donna included in the minutes? Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Siri, for including Commissioner Peak. Next on the agenda, it's cardiac arrest survival discussion. Dr. Eric Garant and Mr. Mike Rogers are going to present this information to us. Okay, guys? Appreciate your presence this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, the commission, for letting us speak. We just want to piggyback off what you said about the telecommunicators. We wouldn't be able to be as effective as we are without their help, especially when it comes to the cardiac arrest, something that's very passionate to my heart. Many years ago, we talked about adding this emergency medical dispatch into the service they were providing. And we review these regularly, and we've come a long way. And just want to say thank you to the dispatchers, the weekends, the nights, the holidays. You know, they're at work. You know, especially when it comes to EMS, they're pretty much the tip of the spear, giving us the information that we need, giving the family the information they need how to treat until we get there. So just really wanted to thank them. And then we'll talk a little bit more about our cardiac arrests. So I just want to give a round of applause. Back in 2012, we started a small committee at the hospital, how to improve cardiac arrest in Boyle County. At first, we started out with heart attack, you know, people that are having heart attacks. The difference between heart attack and cardiac arrest is a heart attack is when you got a cheeseburger clogged in your coronary artery sideways and it won't let your heart perfuse. Cardiac arrest is when your heart just stops. Now, sometimes we know the reason, sometimes we just don't know. People people just all of a sudden have cardiac arrest. That's when their heart completely stops. We've seen a very public example of this at the Bengals game last year, where Buffalo Bills player Damar Hamlin suffered sudden cardiac arrest on scene. Although his is different than what we see normally here in Boyle County, it is of the same, origin, cardiac origin. So, and last year in Boyle County, we had 70 cardiac arrests. Majority of those were in the city for your citizens and responding to those people as quickly as we can, along with dispatch and our Danville Fire Department. We've come a long way. There's still a lot more we need to do between the city, the county, and Ephraim McDowell Hospital. We need to decide if we want to build a system, and that's what we've been doing, of survival for cardiac arrest patients. One thing that I always say a lot when I talk about this is, if a patient had a sudden cardiac arrest here and somewhere else, would they survive? Well, in my opinion, I think that their outcome should be the same. Just because they're in a city that has a system built for cardiac arrest, if they live there, they should live here. And as long as I'm the director of EMS, I'll talk until we can get this done. So there's some things that I'll come back in the future, maybe and ask, like one small thing, the city and the county partner to put a video at the cinemas, a 30-second video where we could have our dispatchers kind of explain what they're doing, and then we can teach hands-only CPR. We know as an EMS professional that if you or people in this room could do CPR before we get there, we can double or triple that patient's chance of survival. And when we're talking, if it's our family, our neighbors, just one of our friends, we would do everything right. So, that this is just some small steps. We're going to continue to build this system for cardiac arrest victims, and our dispatchers, again, are the tip of the storm, and with their help, with Danville Fire, with Danville PD, all of us in this room, the biggest piece we're missing right now is engaging our citizens to do CPR before we get there. And Rebecca can tell you, it's not as easy as it sounds. Just the one the other day that, they were having trouble getting the patient turned over. And but they successfully was to get CPR started. And so we will celebrate small, the word's missing, victories, thank you. But we're going to continue to work. So I'll talk all day on this, so I'm going to let Dr. Grant talk, and then we'll come back and visit you again.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, I'm Eric Goran. I'm medical director for Boyle EMS and also for the Ephraim McDowell Emergency Department. I came to the commission, I think it was in 2017, to, plead that we move to emergency medical dispatch. And I don't think what we've experienced in this community over the last several years in collaboration with the county and city is a small victory. I think it's a large victory. We had a survival rate of 0%. I think we're proud to report that with increased or decreased response time, implementation of CPR, instruction by our emergency dispatchers, that we now have a survival rate of 14%. We have current technologies in place at the hospital that we're going to be implementing, and we've already implemented, which includes a very advanced form of resuscitation, and CPR will become even more imperative to be performed, at the time of arrest. We think as we continue to work together and have our citizens begin CPR, I think we can push survival rates up to about 40%. But with Telecommunications Week, I wanted to thank you and your dispatchers. I think they do an absolutely fabulous job. They do a very tough job. And some of the calls that we've been able to review and listen to them, I think it's been nothing short of amazing. And I wanted to thank you and the city for the work that you all have done. It's about 10%.
Wow.
So thank you.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, thanks for sharing that information with us. Commissioners, do you have any questions for those guys? Okay, good. Let's move along then. Next on our agenda is a proclamation honoring Earth Day and Arbor Day 2023. Commissioner Suri is going to read that, and Preston Miles is going to accept the proclamation.
I'll let you go first. You got anything you want to say? Or you want me to read it first?
Thank you. Thank you for the commission and the mayor for letting us come in front of you. Appreciate the urgency and of all of the things that come before you. But I want to express gratitude to this commission and earlier commissions who have paid attention to infrastructure issues in our community with respect to wastewater and water filtration and have kept those systems up to date. And also want to thank Mr. Morgan for his support in our developing our community Earth Day celebration.
Okay. So I'll read the proclamation, Earth Day / Arbor Day 2023 proclamation. Whereas pollution and environmental degradation of all forms has major negative impacts on the economic and social well-being of all persons and communities. And whereas we recognize the environmental, aesthetic, and economic benefits of trees and forests along with the riparian zones of waterways and in urban areas, and whereas Clark's Run, Hanging Fork, and Dix River watersheds influence the integrity of water in Harrington Lake and ultimately the quality of municipal water supplies in our area. And whereas water is vital to all forms of life, safe drinking water is essential to human life, and water plays an important role in world and national economies. And whereas Danville is recognized by the Arbor Day Foundation as a tree city, and whereas local citizens have organized the Danville Boyle County Earth Day Festival on Saturday, April 22nd at UK Extension Office Pavilion. So furthermore, let it be known that the Danville, Kentucky City Commission hereby encourages its residents, businesses, and institutions to participate on Saturday, April 22nd in celebration of Arbor Day and of Earth Day. Now therefore, be it resolved that Mayor J.H. Atkins and the Board of Commissioners of the City of Danville hereby pledge this 10th day, April 2023, to actively pursue public policy and public education initiatives to assure a sustainable and just future for all of our citizens.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to accept this proclamation?
I'll make a motion to accept the proclamation.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Thank you. And Preston Miles, while you're still there, you want to talk about the banner request?
Yes, I also like to request posting a banner on the nice porch we have here to help our community become aware of the event on April 22nd.
Great. Okay. Is there a motion? Has that been approved by staff, I guess, right? Got a staff recommendation? Okay, so good. So good to go. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, you want to present the proclamation? I'm sorry.
Mayor, I think we still need a motion on the banner request.
Okay, all right.
I move for approval of the banner request.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Thank you. Motion carries.
What time is?
What time?
What time is the?
11 to 3.
11 to 3, okay.
We've got, I think, 41 different exhibitors, food trucks, musicians.
Great location out there, it's a covered pavilion, so in case of inclement weather, it's still in great shape.
It's on the Washington State. Says,
I don't think that's necessary.
she stirs up for the KSU, really? You hear that? I get you with something. Okay, move right along. The next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes of the previous meetings. Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the minutes of March 23rd, March 27th, March 27th regular meeting, as well as special called, and March 31st special called meeting.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions, comments, additions, or deletions? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving our minutes, say yes. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Thank you. Minutes of those previous meetings have been approved. Next item, first reading of ordinance 2009, zone change, Highway 2168 and Shakertown Road. Madam Clerk, you want to read this to us, please, ma'am?
This is the first reading of ordinance number 2009, an ordinance changing the zone from AG Agriculture to Institutional Campus Development, ICD, for approximately 12.413 acres, more or less, of real property located at 2170 Shakertown Road in the city of Danville, Kentucky.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions or comments?
For approval of the first reading of ordinance 2009.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote, Madam Clerk?
Can I ask a question
Yes,
real
sir.
quick? Yeah. I know we're just doing this, Counselor Dexter will certainly tell me we're just doing this plat. But on this about third drawing, it shows that they may want to put a football field and track that exceeds that plat that we're voting on tonight. Is that going to be an issue down the road, do you think?
What you're looking at there, Commissioner, is simply a conceptual plan. So it wouldn't be, those are not always perfect. They're just doing for design. So any final design, I don't know the ownership there, that looks to appear to be in right of way or something of that nature. So to the extent that they needed any type of encroachment, those would be dealt with at the time the design was actually from concept to design plans.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote, Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Caudle,
Yes.
Commissioner Peak,
Yes.
Mayor Atkins,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Holland,
Yes.
Commissioner Saris.
Yes.
Thank you. Next item is Resolution 2023-04-1001, cemetery buyback. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2023-04-1001, purchasing lots back from Jolene Hutchinson Teague and Joe Teague in the amount of $358.
Is there a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk, anything else you want to share with us on that one?
No, sir.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Any other questions or comments from the commission? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, say nay. Thank you all. Next item is first reading of ordinance 2010 food truck ordinance amendment. And our city commissioner is going to lead the discussion on this one.
I would be happy to do that.
Let the clerk read it first. I'm sorry.
Go ahead now,
Clerk,
read it,
first.
Ashley.
This is the first reading of ordinance number 2010, an ordinance amending City of Danville, Kentucky Code of Ordinance, Chapter 13, pertaining to the operation of food trucks in the city of Danville.
Thank you, ma'am.
If you'll recall, we presented a document about 6 weeks ago that outlined the notes and the path forward from the meeting that we had with some of the food truck vendors. The document in front of you incorporates the comments and changes in that were made, most of which are clarifying. Some of the things that are significant, the biggest occurs on page 3, for example, where near the bottom, where the vendors indicated that the liability for automobiles that were pulling their food trucks may not be necessary, and so that's stricken from the ordinance, for example. Bottom of page 4, push cart vendors, we've eliminated that, and you'll see a lot of those changes throughout the document. The paragraph C at the bottom of page 4, we clarified for them that instead of saying following locations, There was some concern that the ordinance limited food trucks to only those locations, and that wasn't the purpose of the paragraph. We were documenting in places on right-of-way. And to that end, then we eliminated the parking lot that was publicly owned adjacent to Constitution Square. That's treated as a park instead of a right-of-way site. So we only have 2 of those as documented, and do you have any questions on the document?
No, I appreciate you all sort of going back and revisiting that with the people who are involved in the business. I think that was a good thing to do.
I wanted to reiterate that too. I think particularly when we introduce new pieces of legislation that are necessary but we've never had in the community before, we get examples from a broad base of communities in Kentucky, from communities some of which are like us and some of which aren't. And so you get the first best attempt on first readings of ordinances, and then when citizens have questions or concerns, this process worked beautifully. I think the first food truck ordinance passed maybe in November or something at the end of last year, possibly December, and then the concerns were raised, and then at the behest of city manager and others, a meeting was held, and I'm not sure who came up with the chart, if it was Melanie or whatever, but who logged the complaint or the concerns, and then so there were 3 columns: concerns presented at the meeting, the middle column was the city's response, and then the last column were action items, some of which were merely answering questions about the ordinance, but there were some 5 or 6 substantive pieces of action that the city took to make it better. So I think this is a good time to put on display that when new regulations are proposed and implemented, they are never written in stone, and they are only intended to become better once more people have input in its actual application. That doesn't mean they'll always change, but it does provide more opportunities for clarification. That chart is not in your packet, but it was very impressive to me and also very helpful in making amendments to our existing document, because we know what transpired at the meetings. So there's a lot of things to be thankful for about the process that was employed in the revisions that are before you.
Thank you, Sarah. Other comments or questions?
And the food truck owners knew they were heard and received all the answers to their questions, so thank you.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
you go ahead.
I want to thank Earl for getting everybody together so quickly. I think it helped and in the community, and it was very organized, like they said, and it was, I think the vendors appreciated it. But I do have a question on page 7, in section C. I think I'd asked that question. I just want to clarify. It says any person agreed by a decision of the code enforcement department, it would go directly to appeal to the board. So it wouldn't go up the chain through the police department, or it would just come directly here?
Any appeal, anyone aggrieved by the ordinance would file something with the city clerk, and you would be the first board to hear any appeal of it.
Okay.
It would not go through the police department
Okay.
as it is there.
Okay.
Other questions
The
or
fact
comments?
being that the codes department ultimately would be responsive, the police department would have some role in that initial decision anyway, most likely. So then this would be the first board to actually hear the appeal.
Okay.
I had the fortunality with Commissioner Peak to attend most of the meetings, and ditto on your compliments to the city manager and staff on how you handled it and got through it. And, my one question is, we identified city property where the food trucks can be. I did not, maybe I just missed it, or maybe it doesn't apply to private property, like at parking lots and so forth.
Right, this does not, this is just establishing in that section where food trucks will be permitted on right-of-way.
Okay,
So it's not saying they can't be other places, private property, things of that nature. This is just saying when they are in right-of-way, these locations are permitted
Yeah.
by ordinance.
yeah. Thank you. It clarifies it for me and hopefully anybody else like me.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions? We need a motion to pass the first reading?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We've already had our discussion, so let's call for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Peak,
Yes.
Mayor Atkins,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Holland,
Yes.
Commissioner Saris,
Yes.
Commissioner Cottle.
Yes.
Thank you all. Next item on our agenda is the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor Commissioners. We had some things we're going to follow up with. Those are noted to be followed up on the 24th. The DAHB discussion, staff has met. We had a good review of that. We'll have a follow-up meeting this week. And on that subject, wayfinding, Baughman sidewalk updates, that will be at the next meeting. Also, I'd like to give a downtown master plan update to make sure that the proper context and with where we're at and the various things that we've been perhaps can be interpreted in different ways, but try to make sure it's contextualized correctly. Important dates, the 14th is a budget meeting this Friday, then the 21st, the regular meeting's the 24th, and we have another budget meeting on the 28th. All those meetings are at 10 a.m. other than the 24th, that's our regular meeting at 5:30. Streetscape is ongoing. We've seen the contractor remain on schedule that they gave us the last time, and they're still pushing their deadline of June 1st. Special activities, we do have an audit. Lee's going to have, that's on the agenda. The 22 audit, we'll be doing an RFP for auditing services. I'm sure she'll talk about that, as well as we'll have the results of the financial advisory service RFP at the next agenda also. Lee's welcome to touch on those things. That's a quick summary. Do you have any questions?
I just have one question. On the
Yep.
21st, didn't you say to back that up to 9 o'clock at our last meeting, or no? The department head meeting?
9 a.m.'s fine with me.
No, I
as
mean,
long-
I don't know. I thought that's what we discussed, but I don't, at our last budget meeting.
Have a problem for you?
No, I can do 9. I do have to leave at lunch to bring my mom to a doctor appointment that was already scheduled that day, but that'll give me more time before that.
So we'll start
would
that
be
one at
great.
9 a.m.
Yeah,
On the 21st?
Yep.
okay.
Thank you.
9. Thank you for bringing that up. And I guess wanted to ask the city manager, thank you to Melanie. Everybody downtown said they got an update with the schedule. Are they going to get weekly updates or?
Yes, that's what,
Okay.
that's what we will effort to do.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Good
Thank you.
Good Friday got us last week, so we didn't have an update Friday afternoon, but we'll have one again this coming
Okay,
Friday.
so thank you.
Mr. Coffey, you have anything else?
No, sir.
On the 21st, I put down, I guess tentatively, the airport tour that afternoon. Is that still in the works?
We'll work on that to schedule that. I don't know yet.
Okay.
We'll have to get through this day would be a full day, so we may have to push that.
All right. Thank you, sir. Any other comments or questions to the city manager? I'm hearing none. Next on our agenda is the second opportunity for the public to speak to the commission. This is where you have an opportunity to talk to us about things that are not on our agenda tonight. And you may come forward once you're recognized. You have 3 minutes or less, and I'm going to stress the or less part tonight because of another engagement the commission has. And when you do come to the mic, please identify yourself before you start your presentation. And I'm going to ask Mr. and Mrs. Moose if they would come forward first, because they've traveled here from Louisville to be with us tonight.
Thank you, Mayor Atkins. I'm Reverend David Moose from Louisville. Louisville's a good community that's having a very terrible day, and I appreciate your moments of silence, your prayers, and anything you can do to reduce violence and help us all to have a safe, good community. Louisville's a good community that's having a terrible day. Danville's a good community that I hope doesn't have any terrible days like that. Danville has a lot of good organizations, one of which was the Danville Lions Club. It closed a few years ago. Judy and I are making several trips to Danville to help start a new Danville Lions Club to serve the community. Lions' motto is simply, we serve. But we serve everywhere. We're the world's largest service organization, known particularly for vision care, but also focusing on a reduction of hunger, helping the environment, reducing childhood cancer, diabetes, doing a lot of disaster relief. Again, Danville's a good community, but it has needs. A good Danville Lions Club will help meet those needs. What can you do to help? Probably you can become a member if you're over the age of 17. If you enjoy helping people, if you don't mind making friends along the way. That's what Lions do. I've given the commissioners brochures. If any of you in the audience would like a brochure, Judy will be happy to give you one. You'll learn more about who Lions are and what they do. One thing Kentucky Lions do is to provide free summer camps for children who are deaf. Some of those from Danville. Also a camp for children who are blind. There's a free summer camp for children in foster care or who are raised by grandparents. There are many other things that Kentucky Lions do, that Danville Lions can do. We hope to see a very strong, vibrant club to complement the other organizations that you have here in Danville. Are there any questions?
Tell us about the organizational meeting that you're having.
I'm sorry?
The organizational meeting that you have planned?
Oh, thank you. I'm about to miss my main point. Thank you, Lion Adkins, Mayor Adkins. Could be Lion Mayor Adkins, I don't know. We are having an informational organizational meeting April 20 at the library from 5:20 until 6 o'clock. Bring your questions. If you can't make that meeting, the brochure that Judy has our phone and email address. You can contact us. We can work things out later. Dues are surprisingly low for Lions. When and where the club will meet will be up to the local club. But the organizational meeting, Thursday, April 20, library, 5:20 to 6. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. And there are also brochures out in the lobby on the table. There are others here who wish to speak to the commission. Yes, sir.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'd first like to thank the commissioners that did stop by our bridal shop and expressed very serious concern about the streetscape issue and what it has done to the downtown business people, the merchants. You know, we're getting hammered on this one. But first, I'd like to recognize you commissioners for coming in. And, you know, Danville has always had a core group of people who have taken an interest in volunteering their time for civic activities that occurred in the central business district. Several of those people are in this small crowd or in this room. Commissioner Caudle, former magistrate John K. Wood, my wife Carol, myself. We've always participated in the Christmas parade, just to give you one example of many, many examples. Mayor Atkins, do you remember the last time you and I crossed paths out front on the porch at the conclusion of the Christmas parade where Carol was serving as a judge? Just one of 100 different times, okay? As far as the streetscape project goes, I think that the law of unintended consequences has raised its ugly head. We draw, Carol's Bridal Shop, we draw from 15 different counties or more to sell prom and wedding dresses. We'll do 6 or 7 schools. And those people who travel from way out of county often ask, where can we get a dinner or a lunch downtown? Which we send them across the street or next door to us. As has been explained to me by city staff, the role of local government is to create the underpinnings of the economy, local economy, so that investors can move into town. And let's use the example of the hotel that we're looking at, feasibility of. If the Main Street merchants and business people get hammered on this streetscape, there's going to be some empty storefronts. And you're going to have a little difficult time there attracting other investors. Am I right? So, now from a personal example, and I'm sorry we only have 3 minutes, because, well, we tried 3 times to get on the agenda. Yes, sir, 3 times we tried, and we didn't. And I think, yes, we did. I have brought along a delegation with me to show you the seriousness of which this issue is to be discussed, okay? From our perspective at the bridal shop, the first 5 months of the year, January through May, we do about 65% of our gross sales. Currently, because of streetscape, we're down 35%. And that number actually translates into the dollars that we normally take and spend on dress orders for next year. So there is no money for us to go buy new dresses next year. Our customers have also been conditioned to drive on elsewhere, okay? And we've lost that customer retention. They just keep going. They're afraid to pull. Well, there is no place to pull over and park. Now, I'm not here asking for a handout. I'm asking the city that's imposed this streetscape project on us to shoulder some of the burden that we're carrying. If anyone desires any of the data, financial information that I presented to you tonight, it can be presented, made available, okay? And I'm going to yield this microphone to the next folks. Well, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you very much.
Because we don't want to get into yielding because you're 3
Yes,
minutes.
sir.
Okay. So there are other folks we know who want to speak to us. So I don't see any hands being waved. Who else wants to speak to the commission?
I'm Bo Cacciatore. I'm sure a lot of you know me. Thank you, everybody, tonight. I'm not going to go on and on. You all know the story. We're all in this together. I will say that I streamed the special meeting that you all had, and I heard some things that were pretty disconcerting to me. I understand an interruption in a project that may take 4 months or 5 months or 6 months for the betterment of the entire community, and hopefully, which potentially turns out to be a great economic windfall in the long haul here. But this is going to turn into 14 or 16 months now by the looks of things. Spoke with all the contractors today. I've been speaking with Earl and Josh, and you know, hopefully the tree guys will come in, the nursery will come in and put these trees in so they can complete things. We're getting closer, but nothing's completed, and it looks like we're going to string out into summer. And I heard a comment from a commissioner during the special meeting which really offended me, that we're just looking to stick money in our pockets. I mean, that's out of line. Nobody's sticking money in their pockets. We've shouldered the burden on this and are prepared to continue to do it. But, you know, I just think, I know the recommendation from staff was that, you know, nothing else, you know, they don't recommend anything else should be done. It's unprecedented. Well, in doing having my staff do further research, which in 3 minutes I don't have the time to produce, but I do have it all. There's a lot of cities where these projects have extended out to, a huge timeline like this where a lot of relief was given. Houston, Minneapolis, I mean, I can go on and on. So I feel like those comments were erroneous. I've appreciated everything this city has done for us and, continues to try to do, but I think a lot of thought needs to go into this. And, not every business is struggling like others. Mr. Dexter had said his business, which is, not a retail, it's a professional shop, they're not going to struggle. If somebody's getting divorced, they're going to find a place to park. If somebody's getting lunch and has 35 minutes, they're not going to stop there when they can go elsewhere. So I think we need to spend the next week, I'm assuming this is on the agenda next week. Is that what I heard Mr. Coffey say? I'm not sure. But I think we need to really dig deep into this. So I thank you all for everything.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Carol Sin, and I'm not speaking for myself. Shayna Followell could not be here this afternoon, so she asked me to read this to you. This is what she would say if she could have come, but her children come first, and she had to go pick them up. So.
I understand.
My name is Shayna Followell, and I'm the owner of Bluegrass and Buttercream on Main Street. This project has had a drastic impact on my business and my mental health. In the third quarter of 2022, we showed a loss of over $18,000 over the year before. While the $10,000 grant we received was very appreciated, it was a drop in the bucket to what myself and my neighbors have lost and continue to lose. I was at that point working 60-plus hours a week to help mitigate the income loss we had faced, and that took a huge toll on my mental health as well as my family's well-being. It was at that time we decided we had to cease full storefront operations effective January 1st until the chaos in downtown has been resolved. That meant my full-time employees were laid off, my landlord is receiving a reduced rental fee from us, and we are currently operating the storefront 2 to 3 times a month for walk-in traffic, since I am the sole employee during the week to fill custom orders just to keep the lights on. We have had clients in just the last 2 weeks cancel their orders during the 11th hour due to not wanting to mess with downtown, meaning I had to absorb the cost of the orders that we had already made. She stated the day prior it had taken her 40 minutes to get down Main Street, and she was not going to experience that again. We all chose downtown Danville as a place for our business because there is something we love about our community and those we serve. But this project, the flippant attitude of those in charge, the general lack of communication, and broken promises, what happened to the city destroying one section at a time, have driven a wedge between city officials and business owners. We feel as if we have been left to figure it out immediately after we survived the pandemic with, again, little or no support from the city. At the last commission meeting, it was made evident that some commissioners could honestly care less about the impact we are facing. I urge you all to consider the emotional and mental tax that this is taking on all of us. This is not just a financial burden. To hear Commissioner Sari say someone is trying to line their pockets in reference to a business owner applying for a late grant is a slap in the face. I can assure you that we are all just trying to survive. And she asked me to read that for you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. K. Wood?
Good evening. Thank you all for the opportunity. I'm going to deviate from my prepared remarks to get right down to it and try to cut it short. You passed 6 anyway. But I'm here because of what you've already heard. You've heard the story. I'm not going to get back into it. I will just say what they're telling you is true. maybe you all might invest some money into something you feel like that will bring you an honest return. We invest in inventory that's on hangers. My employees see it as something to sell. I see it as dollar bills. And for over a year, it hasn't been pretty, particularly the last 4 or 5 months. I understand we've got several months to continue down this trail. It's not going to get any better. I read social media that says people are not coming back to town because they can't find a place to park. It's just disruptive. Sorry, Reverend. But folks, this is hell. You sit there day after day hoping the door opens, and it may or may not. And the electric meter's running. You have employees. You have a cost of doing business. You can't run from it. It bites you. Therefore, I thought of something that maybe would help you all. A couple months ago, maybe you all went to a seminar, 13 Ways to Kill Your Community. I don't know if you've read it, and I haven't read all of it, but I've read enough to know you need to read it. I understand your responsibility. You need to read this book. If you don't have it, I'm sure Earl can get it for you. I find it interesting, Rick, that you mentioned water. It's chapter number 1. But you go through like page 17 through 19, very interesting. And then page 48 through 50, they talk about shopping, people not shopping in their downtown. You'll find that to be extremely interesting position that Mr. Griffiths took on that. And what he found out is he traveled throughout the United States and talked to small towns. Then I find it interesting that in Sunday's Herald, you open the page and it says, people are hungry to support their local community. And I believe that that is here also. And then you turn the page on 5A, you'll find a lot written about downtowns, the importance of it, and what needs to be done to try to keep it healthy. Incentives is very much mentioned. We work real hard as a community for incentives to bring industry. Incentives were given to the airport when they're talking about bringing it into the city zone. Downtowns are important. I was in a meeting years and years ago. Mike Adams came. Mike Adams said, and this was when the hub closed, approximately 70,000 square feet building that was retail and brought people to Danville. And Mike said, those lights being off at night, you have no idea how that affects our recruiting of future students. I'll always remember that. I never connected the two. He brought it to truth. If you can get this paper, it's Sundays, get it, read it. You'll find it to help in your decision-making process, because your responsibility is to learn the facts in order to make an informed decision. Sorry, been there, done that, know how that works.
Thank you, sir.
What I'm really here for, Mayor,
I'm sorry.
I want to know who's going to rebuild our downtown, because that's what it needs. It needs to be rebuilt from scratch. It needs to be, the doors need to be open. People need to know they can come down safely. I understand the project, so I'm not finding fault with that. But I know what the effect is, because those are dollar bills hanging on the hangers in my business. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Someone else? Oh, my, what, oh, yes, ma'am. Did I recognize you?
I'm finally here.
Oh, it's okay.
My name is Margaret Calhoun.
All right.
I know you trying to build them sidewalks uptown and all that money y'all spending, but you need to build a flood wall down there at Clark's Run. We get ready to fix up the park. And when it rains hard, the water comes over into the park. And it's gonna run a lot of stuff, you know, depends on how long it rains. Should have done had a flood wall. It ain't gotta be real high, just keeping it from coming over in the park. And that's what I'm here for.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
We getting ready to break ground and make it beautified and, you know, and the water splash for the kids. And when it rained that day, it was coming over to the park. Wasn't no city trucks. Keep an eye on it till I called City Hall. Didn't hear they come. So
Okay.
they should have done been down there. They know about that creek all these years. But something need to be done to keeping that water coming over to the park. And sometime it gets over to the apartments too, if it rains long enough. And they need to clean out the sewer down there, because they stopped up. That's another thing. And y'all have a blessed day.
Thank you, ma'am. Oh, I thought your hand was up. Yes, ma'am. Someone else? All right. Thank you all for your comments, for your input, for your concerns. We will take them very seriously like we always do. These things we will send to staff. And for you all who is your first time here, it's customary for us as a commission to listen, not to try to address concerns in the midst of this meeting. So thank you for your input. Commissioner comments is next on our agenda. About ready to Commissioner comments? Congratulations to KSD as they begin this week's 200th anniversary celebration. Other comments from the commission?
I mean, I personally want to thank you all for coming tonight and hearing your comments and concerns about downtown. And I do hope that we find a solution that will help everybody and make it better for you all. I do appreciate you coming. I also want to say just a couple of things. I want to say thank you to the 911 dispatchers, and because they do have a hard job, and I worked with you all, so I really do appreciate what you do and how you are. They're very professional, and Danville and Bull County should be very thankful of the people that we have in there taking care of us. And the other thing was, I got a Southern Living magazine at home, and Danville was in there several times, mentioned that we were in the top cities in the South. So I thought that was a good thing to see.
Thank you, ma'am. Other commissioner comments?
Can I move to adjourn? Would that be appropriate? No.
Well, the city attorney's out of the room, so any,
No, I don't have anything.
Yeah, okay. Well, we still got, it's 20 minutes to 7. So we want to move right along. So let's go on to the next item on the agenda. I'll save my comments for the next meeting time. The next item is payment of the bills. Chair would like to entertain a motion to pay the bills as submitted.
I'll move to pay the bills in the amount of $1,189,922.55.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments about the bills?
I think it's 24.
Is that-
Okay, $24.55.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Safe travels, guys. Okay.
I do have one little question. again,
ma'am.
maybe we've said this before, the Danville County Airport Board, or Air Board, the loss of revenue, what is that, Bill?
They get we collect their insurance money, so it's basically a pass-through from KLC Insurance to
Okay.
them.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, the chair would like to move the motion. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Fiscal year 21 audit report. Ms. Compton, you have the next two items.
So, as you guys know, the fiscal 21 audit report took just a very long time. There's a lot of reasons for and that. But the long and short of it today is that we are presenting the audit report to you guys today. You have a physical copy that's bound and then an electronic copy that's in your packet. We actually aren't going to cover the audit, the details today. It's available on our website. Our auditor, its tax deadline is Saturday, I believe. So we're going to have him back on the 8th. I think we have a meeting on
24th?
I think he said he was available the 8th of May, that he was
Oh.
not available the 24th. So not the next meeting, but the meeting after that, he'll be available to go in detail for the audit. And we thought that was kind of the more proper way, since he would be available to answer your all specifics. But then you would also have a sufficient amount of time to review it before then.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is just us presenting it, and like I said, it is available on our website currently. Got that uploaded earlier today.
All right. Any questions or comments? Everybody okay with that?
I will say that it's a priority of mine and Lee's to make sure we're current. As COVID hit, this is one of the industries that just locked up. And so our original FY '20 audit was the one that got us behind to the point where that contributed to this one being behind. Our target right now is to have the 21 audit caught up by September 1st of this year, so that then the year that we're in is correctly audited by the end of the calendar year. So then we'll be totally back on schedule by December 31st of this year. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'll be happy to talk to you at length about it whenever you would like to sit down and go through it. The audit, that is, we'll be happy to do that with you. But again, the auditor will be here at the end of the meeting in May.
And like Earl had mentioned, we are going to issue an RFP for audit services. Last year, we decided that for the sake of getting it started and going, we would continue with the previous auditor to allow, a better, a selection for this commission of who our auditor will be for the next several audits. So that should be issued probably, my goal is to get it out in Saturday's paper. The Advocate does Tuesday, Saturdays, so our goal is to get it out this coming Saturday.
Thank you, ma'am. You have the next item as well,
Yes.
which is the quarterly financial update. Want to move on to that?
Oh, can I ask a quick RFP? So how
Absolutely.
often do we do the RFP? Every 4 years? or-
So I can't speak to historically how we've done it. I don't know. I'd have to go back through old files to find out. What's standard in a lot of cities is to do a 3 or 5 year RFP, and the same audit firm would do the audit for those consecutive years. I haven't had Earl review it just yet. The format that I'm looking at is 5 years, but we're open to modification or
Sounds
suggestion on
good.
that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So a quick update of financials as of March 31st, 2023. A lot of this might sound repetitive or familiar to the commission, since we did just have a budget update recently, but for the public, I do like to present something quarterly. So the PowerPoint isn't online, but the quarterly update with the numbers and a bit of description discussion is available online on the Finance Department's website. It's just labeled quarterly financial update, and that's available currently online. Okay. We'll start out with general fund revenue. Gosh, let me pull this up. So our general fund revenues are very positive compared to this time last year. Our largest category of revenues are up by about 1.2 million. We are at about 95% of our budget in the license and fees category. This correlates very heavily with timing. Those revenues they hit quarterly. Our biggest quarters typically tend to be toward the winter months. As you can see, our taxes, that very first category, we've collected 102%, 100.5% of our budgeted tax revenue. That's your property taxes, things of that nature that are due at the end of the year. We are, as we discussed last week at our budget meeting, the last category, shows a substantial decrease, or what looks to be a substantial decrease in our intergovernmental fund revenue. That's just due to timing of receiving the ARPA funds earlier than anticipated. Total revenues from the general fund as of March 31st, 2023 are $17.9 million. Our general fund expenses, we have captured our operating expenses here. All categories show an increase in operating expenses compared to last year. The blue column is your current year, the yellow column is prior year. Most of this is due to the increase investment in our personnel costs. So this is a known increase that we were expecting, would have been something abnormal had it decreased significantly. Our current general fund expenses as of Q3, $21.3 million, which is on track compared to our budget. Capital expenses. General fund, not quite as high as it was last year at this time. That's primarily due to where we were in the central fire station project this time last year. We've gotten 90% of that wrapped up. I think they're soon to be starting on the Memorial Plaza to finish that off. Our streetscapes, obviously, we've spent significantly more this time this year as that project is getting closer to its end. Parks and Recreation, we have spent, I think we're pretty far into our tennis court contract. I'd have to double check how far along we are, but I think we're getting pretty close to finishing that up. We've done a bit of work on Jenny Rogers, Michael Smith Park, and then utility funds, very similar to last year. Current projects include the Lebanon Road Sewer Project, the Perryville Road projects, and the wastewater treatment plant. Trying to think, let's see. Oh, that got sideways. So our utility fund revenue as of March 31st is at about 73% of our budget at $8.3 million. Slightly above last year, significant. That first column, first two columns is your operating revenue, which consists of your water service, sewer service, those kind of items. Your non-operating revenue, it can vary significantly year to year. That includes any grants or loan, bond issuances, those kind of things, which we've not had. We've had some carryover KIA funding that contributes to that variance there. And then your utility fund expenses. This is similar to your general fund, your operating expenses. All categories are Slightly above, this is a known increase in your personnel. You also have some inflation in there. Your operating expenses are slightly below budget as of March 31st at 73.25%. There's a lot more information in the packet that's available online. We cover the utility fund and the general fund in a lot more detail. We also cover park and recreation funds. Your minor funds are broken out, which include your municipal aid fund, streetscapes, cemetery, stormwater, garbage, and parking, with a few more illustrative charts available just to help understanding. And there's a bit of a narrative with it for those that are interested that describes each category in a little bit more detail. So that was a very quick overview of utility and general fund, since those are the two largest funds with the most activity in them. Is there anything specifically you guys would like to cover?
Any comments or questions? Commissioner Collier, you got that look on your face.
Well, that's because I'm confused most of the time, but.
Fair
no,
enough, me too.
I was following you, and the way you presented it was good for me. And so everything generally is where we thought it would be for the most part.
There's not really been a lot of surprises, I would say. We know that things cost more. We intentionally planned to spend more on personnel,
Right.
which increased your departmental cost. We knew there were several large projects. I don't think that there's anything, in my opinion, that is just a unusual or unexpected.
A couple of the pressures that we see, one of the couple comments, one, different as part of the budget process this year, what I'd like to do is try to do at least one presentation on a Monday night. That's our regular meeting where we talk about our budget more with more granular activities down into it a little bit. I think during our regular meetings, we always get it really high. And I think there will be, and we don't really do that with budget meetings. We always do that in the mornings and always, so I think there will be, we will try to tailor at least one presentation. It won't be one that we'll ask for a lot of feedback. We'll just do a presentation, do a budget presentation proposed at a regular meeting. I think that will be healthy for the community to understand some of the dynamics. One of the comments I'd like to make, though, is on the utility side. The last graph that was up there was the expenses. The utility is the industry where we're seeing the biggest impact of inflation on it. They do a lot of purchasing of, the electronics now that we buy on a regular basis. It is, things are getting really expensive. And that is the industry that inflation is hitting the most. And so I just want to caution everybody with that idea as we get further into the budget process. I'm not sure yet what that means, but other than to say we know that the trend on the utility is a lot of expense pressure. We can feel that. Combine that with a poor water quality at the lake last year we had with some of the, remember the conditions that we saw, the lake was down. They had lowered the lake elevation, so you had a lot more dense pollutants. We saw that at the plant with the increase in purchase of chemicals necessary to maintain water quality. And so those things impact, and our budget, our operating budget, are totally out of the control of staff, but and also sometimes are very unpredictable. And so you've got to be careful, are they a trend or are they short-term? The inflation looks like a trend, and water quality looks like something that's short-term. So we'll have to balance that as we get into the budget process on the utility side. General fund is fairly sound. Recall, we talked about the revenue slide, that was on the screen, sheet 11 in your packet. We adjusted, and we appreciate you guys adjusting the insurance premium tax rate down. So we cut the insurance premium tax 2%, which was 20% by total. Utility or the general fund revenue is the thing we would point out there is that it's looking more and more unbalanced, and you can tell by the chart that it is. And so one of the things that we've talked about, and just to dive into the conversation, I know, Mayor, you're wanting to, but I want you all to think about balancing the revenue. I don't know really now's the time to make changes in some of those things, but for example, the property taxes, we've taken the compensating rate for 8 or 9 years in a row. That in essence lowers that rate, which maintains that it's flat, and you can see that the taxes on the left is flat. The insurance premium tax comes out of the very tall one. And so things we look at that we want you all to also think about as we get into the budget process, and we're talking about these tax rates and things. I'm not really sure there's a lot that you can do across the board, but it is something that, we're trying to dive into and try to figure out on our side.
Appreciate that. I keep looking at my cell phone because there's a clock that goes off, and it says he's over 3 minutes. I don't know which one you all sent that to, but I think I know.
That's funny.
Let me ask a question. Do we have an executive session scheduled for tonight?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then my next question is it proper for the commission to take a recess and then come back and finish the business? And then before you answer that, the third question is, Chief Gray, sir, did you get a paddy wagon lined up, some lights on, and take it to the back real quick?
We should get you an escort.
No, you give me a ticket. Mr. Dixon.
Mayor, it would be appropriate to table remaining items for another session, but not to take a recess that would allow you to go attend another event and come back and transpire business. So if you want, what I would encourage you to do, what's the end goal time to leave? Well, I think Mr. Morgan's can be relatively quick.
And I got 2 more things to say, too.
I would say that as far as 16 and 19, those could probably be delayed to another meeting, with all due respect to the fire chief and Mr. Morgan. And we could probably do 17 and 18 in less than 3 minutes if you let us attempt to do that, and then we can just end executive session as necessary.
Yep.
Oh, is it 8:30?
Okay, I thought
Oh, I
it was
thought it was 8
8.
o'clock. Oh, well, you better build us up then, okay.
Okay,
All right,
that's
well,
good.
we were over there communicating and we thought it was 8 o'clock, but okay, let's move on then. Let's do 17 and 18, then we'll come back to 16, see what happens.
Well, we could do 16's gonna take like 30 seconds if we
Go
want
ahead.
to knock out 16
What?
real quick.
All right, well, let's do 16 then,
Okay,
Josh.
so this is the right-of-way ordinance we've been working on for a couple of years. It's, we've not been a high priority for me, but just wanted to get it in front of you all to review as we prepare to bring it to you for a first reading. This is a new ordinance for the city that dictates how we interact with utilities and franchises that utilize our right-of-way, is the primary use of it. We've worked with our utilities and franchises. They've seen this, they've reviewed it with us, we've made changes. So we just wanted to get it in front of you all, get a chance to look at it, and whenever you all are ready. This is not something we need to have done anytime soon. So wanted to give you all a chance to look at it. We can kind of table discussion for later and let you all digest it.
It'll work. All right, number 17?
17. So yes, in your packet, you have an agreement for the Safe Streets for All grant that we were awarded a couple months ago. This is just the final paperwork that you all have to sign off on to commit to the grant. And just to reiterate, it's a $160,000 grant with a $40,000 match from the city that we're going to utilize to develop a Vision Zero safety plan for our city streets. So this will be a project we'll work on over the next year or so. The important part of this is that they're going to be doing these grants every year for the next 5 years, and you have to have a safety plan in place before you can apply for implementation money to do projects. So once we have this safety plan done, then we'll start applying for implementation grants.
Okay. We need to make a motion on that then, don't we? Move that
Please.
forward? Is there a motion to move forward on the Safe Streets?
I move to,
Albright?
I move to accept resolution 2023-04-1002.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor say yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Josh, number 18?
So yes, we're bringing back the bids to you all for Michael Smith Park. We brought it to you all a couple months ago, and we kind of tabled it until we had a chance to look at our Parks Master Plan and discuss capital projects. We are at the 60-day point that we had, the bid was good for 60 days. So if we're going to wait to proceed with this project, we even discussed changing the scope to bring the price down, maybe try to include the playgrounds. We need to officially reject those bids so we can redo the design and put it back out to bid again.
All right, that's going to require a motion and
It does.
okay. And this is to reject the bids from phase one,
Yes.
okay? Josh, you heard that from the peanut gallery. You want to answer that?
So-
real fast?
Why is that, Mr. Morgan?
Ms. Calhoun, so some of the bids could be adjusted, some of the work could be done by staff, like the parking lot potentially could be done with Public Works. So what we'd like to do is realign the scope so that the outsourced work, for example, a splash pad would be done by the contractor, the work that we could, so it's very high, the pricing is very high. And so what we're trying to do is do some of it in-house to lower the price. So in order to do that, we have to start over with the bidding process.
And Ms. Calhoun, you might want to meet with Josh and let him talk to you about the overage charges, because it's really out of whack. And not just you, but anybody else that's
It's
interested in
the
knowing
low
why.
bid, just
Yeah.
the low bid was $2.4 million, so
Yeah.
it was the low bid. So
Yeah.
that was,
Okay, let's move. Is there a motion on the floor?
I move to
Number
approve
17?
resolution 2023-04-1003.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? Yeah, disappointing, we understand. All those in favor of rejecting these bids, say aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries. Let's go to number 19. Chief Simpson? And is it Boots?
Yeah, this will only take like 45 minutes or so, I think. I'm just kidding. Just a little history, the key lockbox ordinance. Danville Fire Department's been participating in this for 20 years voluntarily. So any commercial structure that's built new, we ask them to get a Knox box key for the system front door. It's easy access, 2 o'clock in the middle of the night, we can make access, check the fire alarms, check for fire extension, smoke, whatever, and not break the door down. So that's where the key lockbox comes in effect. Also, right now, we have residential key lockboxes for people who might have medical conditions such as Alzheimer's, anything, so we'll have a key for that. We're the only people that have a key for the city of Danville, Knox boxes. So there's 4 of them. Engines, command vehicle, and deputy chief has one. So it opens all the commercial structure. We have over 100 right now in progress in the city, commercial structures that have these already. So we'd just like to have something formal on paper, like an ordinance, to say when a new warehouse comes in or industrial site, please, we have an ordinance here for a Knox box system. But right now, they're already voluntarily doing it, so. Any questions on it?
Approximate cost for?
They're around $300, $400. Of course, inflation, some of them are getting closer to $500. Residential ones are a little smaller.
Sure.
And they're placed normally 4 to 5 feet on the structure wherever the owner wants them, and they're pretty indestructible. I'll give you just a quick brief. 20 years ago, we had one industry here in town. The owner was very scared that someone was going to break into their Knox box. So they put it 9 feet up on the wall. So every time we'd go to that for an alarm drop, that structure, we had to get a ladder out, climb up, get the Knox box out, climb back down, and open the front door. So try to keep it 4 and 5 feet is where we normally try to keep it. And if you look around a lot of your commercial buildings, you'll see them on the commercial buildings.
Well, it's just a great safety feature.
It is, and it's easy access for us, and it saves the owner a lot of time. At 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock, they don't want to receive a phone call and say they have to come to their business. You know, they may be an hour away, and we don't want to wait an hour on site because we may have another call. So it's beneficial for both parties.
It might even,
No, we'll come back and as an agenda item on the next meeting, we'll include this as a more formal discussion for it, and you give us direction on whether or not you want us to draft an ordinance. to
And there
make
is
it
no cost to the city. The owner takes the
Correct.
cost of the box.
Right.
yeah. Well, and my thing about the cost is that I know it's for the owner, but, you know, what a service though. Man,
Yeah,
because
and
if you go out there and the
besides-
place is on fire, you know how to get in, and, you know, it's like,
Yeah, well, we don't want to break a $3,000 door down if it's not on fire, so
and it might have some impact on my insurance too, if I
possibly.
have that, yeah.
I'm really excited about the residential aspect of it because we're
Yeah.
doing a lot of emergency calls and
Yeah.
when people have those health conditions that
Yeah.
can't, not
Yeah.
ambulatory to get to the front door, we can make quick access to them.
Well, I would definitely want to see us do something with that, make sure it's
Thank
not, does not become an issue for you all. Thank you, that's great FYI.
Thank you, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, I guess it brings us to the point where we make a motion to go into executive session.
Litigation and personnel.
And can I set a time limit on, oh, just kidding. All right, someone make a motion, we go into executive session?
I'll make a motion that we go into executive session to discuss personnel matter pursuant to KRS 61.810(1)F, and also for litigation, motion to go into executive session to discuss pending litigation for which disclosure may compromise litigation posture pursuant to KRS 61.310(1)C.
Wow, thank you, ma'am.
Second?
Is there a second? All those in favor of going into executive session?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Aye. Let's go real quick, guys, if we can.
Aye.
Okay, Mr. City Manager, you have some business for us?
Yes, sir. Staff is recommending the hiring of Travis Brickman to the position of Water Treatment Operator, Class 3.
Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion to approve the hire.
Is there a second?
Second, glad to have him.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Is
That's
that all we
it.
have?
Yes, sir.
I thought we were firing Josh.
No, not tonight.
Okay, 2 nights, 2 weeks, okay.
Chair
I'll
would
move
entertain,
to adjourn.
Chair would entertain a motion. Oh, we have a motion on the floor to adjourn. Thank you, Commissioner Holland. Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Now, we're going to reconvene in KSD.